Brother Malcolm from the branch of GMS here in Chicago, giving all praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Double honors into the apostles and the elders of GMS, who are the true leaders of all Israel on earth today. And salutations to the Akim that are doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so. Salutations to the Confusion of Faith Akim who are coming into the fold. And salutations to the Akwaf that are listening and learning. To you I say Shalom. This is going to be a response to the beloved brother out in Hawaii, GMS Hawaii, Shalom. And he did a video on this debunking the BHI, you know, this Black Hebrew Israelite debunk thing. First of all, there is no such thing as black or black people, all right? That's the first thing. But I watched the video and it was very painful, and I got a feeling that this guy in this video is this scoffer named out of East. You know, I could be wrong. It's just me, you know. But something in the spirit tells me that it might be him. It might be the same scoffer that comes on my videos, especially pushing that Cush thing, because the Negroes are not connected to Cush, and the Hamites and the Negroes are two different races of people, and it's an easy thing to prove. Okay, but I wrote down a few things, and I'm just gonna read off my little list so I can stay on track until my scriptures come out. But everything that was being said in that video was all conjecture and hearsay. All right, the academic Zondervan's blog, or the Zondervan's blog of academic, you know, scholars, they have a blog, and the Zondervan scholars, you know, to me they appear to be recognized worldwide, man, because there are all these different Bibles that are used in all religions, man. They make a NIV, they make the New International, they got a new they got the King James, the KNJV, the New King James. So these scholars are highly decorated in the world of Edom. You know, they're recognized by scholars worldwide. And so you mean to tell me all of a sudden that these scholars are not credible? Because this guy was trying to say that the Zondervan's book that was used was outdated information. Since when? The book was published in 2001, man. And then it's funny too is that the newest Zondervans, they pulled that information out. But guess what? Older books say the same thing. As a matter of fact, the Young's Dictionary Bible, which is also made up of Israeli and Jewish scholars that are on that panel, the Young's Dictionary Bible gives an even more detailed definition of Ham and how Ham was not the progenitor of the Negroes. And so, because the guy in the video, he said that nowhere in the book did it say that Ham was not the father of the Negroes. It told you, it gave you the definition of Ham, and it told you about his son Cush, Canaan, which they don't like to bring up Canaan, because Canaan is the same. Canaan is where most of the events that took place with the Israelites in the Old Testament took place in the land of Canaan. So Canaan was the son of Ham, a so-called a dark person. So they don't like to bring up Canaan at all, man. But his son Canaan, his son Cush, Mizraim, and Put. Okay, those are all so-called African peoples. But then it tells you that he was not the progenitor, father of the Negroes. And then the Youngs, it says not the father of the Negroid races. All right, so that means the Negroid races, which are the 12 tribes, were not the same as the Hamites. Okay, so this whole Cushite thing, man, that's a complete and total fabrication and can't be proved. And there's plenty of scriptures in the Bible where Israelites were mistaken for Africans. All right. And then and then if you go back to the History of the Middle East series that I did, it was a part 5 series. The main book that I used was a book by Giorgio Ferrero, all right, which showed you all the dark images of the Africans that were all throughout the land of Canaan, the Middle East, and the land of Palestine and Israel, man. All the relics that were dug up, you know, outside of what's written. But they showed you the actual relics that were dug up from the time period, man. So you can't get around that, man. But Esau likes to ignore relics and facts, man. and create their own things. As a matter of fact, I got something that I kept from a book that I have. It's a book called Gangsters and Organized Crime in Chicago. All right, in Jewish Chicago, and it's written by Alex Gorel Franson. All right, and it reads right here. It says, the end of the Jewish gangsters, newspapers increasingly omitted the religious marker. According to Jewish criminals, became simply gangsters. The population dispersal indicated that the interaction between the Gentile population, the Jewish community, and the Jewish panderer, gambler, or racketeer would no longer be so pronounced. The gangsters' activities could not hold the same significance or affect Chicago Jewry as it once did. For example, the Chicago Tribune could not blame Jews for crimes using the term of old, such as ghetto or Russian Jews. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna stand up. As a matter of fact, I saw the Untouchables tour van yesterday, and on the side of it, it had Weiss and Dillinger. Those are Jewish names, man. Okay, let me go back to this. It says, yet these gangsters were exceptions to the rule. One such anomaly was Jack Greasy Thumb Guzik, who started in prostitution business and rose to business manager and chief lieutenant of Al Capone. All right, then it mentions George Bliss, who may have been his because I only have that one page, that one insert from the book. All right, but Jack Greasy Thumb Guzik was a fake Jew. All right, and he was a right-hand man to Al Capone. And as you heard me say before, it's rumors in Chicago that Al Capone himself may have been Jewish, man. A lot of those gangsters were Jewish, man. And so they removed the term Jewish gangsters and just started putting gangster. All right, and then they throw it off on the Italians and the Irish and all them. And yeah, some of them were gangsters too. All right, but nevertheless, it just goes to show you how Esau likes to get around truth and facts and you know, use the sleight of hand to try to get around things. But I'm gonna read a couple 4 scriptures, man, that's going to coincide with the whole ham, going back to the definitions. And another thing that these so-called debunkers of the black Hebrew Israelite, the BHI thing, the oldest forms of Hebrew were found here in the Americas, man. All right, and it's a known fact, historical fact, that Christopher Columbus, whose real name was Cristobal Colon, came to the Americas with 5 Hebrew interpreters, man. One of them being de Torres, all right? And he came with 5 Hebrew interpreters, okay? Because the oldest form of Hebrew, the block Hebrew, or what fake Jews refer to as biblical Hebrew, or sometimes the scholars call Phoenician or Paleo Hebrew, was found here in the Americas, man. Those are facts. It's not hearsay, talk, or conjecture. Those are facts. So it's not a black thing, which there's no such thing anyway. Because the last time I checked, everyone you call black is really brown. All right? And here in Chicago, man, there are lots of Arabs and so-called Indians who are just as dark, if not darker, than some so-called Negroes. And it's funny how they don't get called black, man. I've seen East Indians as dark, as black as Africans, but yet they're not called black. Okay? But let me get a couple of quick scriptures. First one is Deuteronomy, 28th chapter, and the 68th verse, man. And let's let the scriptures speak. All right, because it's funny how it clearly tells you that the earth is given into the hands of the wicked, and the so-called white man, so-called the biblical Edomites, they profess their dominance and this and that and the other, and society started with the Greek civilization and blah, blah, blah. But as soon as you mention that the earth is given into the hands of the wicked, they don't want to have nothing to do with being Edom. And according to the Bible, the wicked is identified as being Edom. As a matter of fact, you got a lot of scholars that acknowledge that Edom was Rome, including Jewish scholars. But anyway, this is Deuteronomy 28:68. And it reads, "And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way thereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, And there you shall be sold unto your enemies as bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. All right, a bondman is a slave man, a bondwoman is a slave woman, and buy means to redeem, to save you. It means that you're going into slavery, man. And when you go back up into the book and start reading the curses, one of them said that they will be sold naked and in chains, all right, with yokes of iron around their neck. There are no relics or no time in history where Jewish people had yokes of iron around their neck and were sold and transported on ships into slavery, man. Especially understanding and knowing that the word Egypt means slavery. It basically translates to slavery, the house of bondage, man. So that never happened to them because they're not the people of the book. All right? Next scripture, Isaiah 14:1. Isaiah's a big book. Got a heavy portion. Yeah, this is Isaiah 14. And I'm going to read 14:2. That's the one. That's the point. But it says, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land for service and handmaids, and they shall take captives, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. So if Deuteronomy 28:68 says that they would go naked and in chains with yokes of iron around their neck, all right, well, being that that didn't happen to the fake Jewish people, the people over in the land of Israel, or the fake Jewish people, or the Edomites who made this whole debunked BHI videos, that didn't happen to them, all right. So the people who went into captivity that way, the scripture says that they're going to take their captives captive. So that would mean that the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, because they were the ones who got shipped to the four corners of the earth during the transatlantic slave trade. Yes, all three people, all three races, because they're all one race. Those are your Negroid races referred to back in the not in the Zondervan's, but the Young's Dictionary Bible, when it gives a breakdown of Ham not being the forefather of the Negroid races. All right, so you know it wasn't talking about Japhet, okay? And it wasn't. So if Ham was eliminated, not Japhet, only Shem is left. Okay. So that doesn't fit the fake Jewish people, man. The next scripture. And also, that means that the Jewish people went back to Israel. They should have brought people back in chains and been their oppressors. Okay. Next two scriptures. The next one is the book of Joel, the 3rd chapter, and verse 8. This is Joel 3:8. And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah. All right, and they shall sell them to the Sabians, to a people far off, for the Lord has spoken it. So when the Israelites go back when Judah goes back into the land of Israel, they're going to be selling their oppressors, so into slavery. So being that didn't happen with the fake Israelis, they can't be the people. They're not fitting the prophecies here, which is why they don't like to talk about prophecies, man. Next and last scripture is Amos 1:9, and it reads, thus saith Yahweh, for 3 transgression of Tyrus, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they delivered up the whole captivity to Edom, and remembered not the brotherly covenant, man. And that's going back to Joel, man. Joel 3:6. All right, when those Hamites, the real sons of Ham, and those Ishmaelites, the Arabs, sold the children of Israel into the fake Grecians at the time, who was representation of Edom. All right, so with that, I'm going to say, you know, all praises, glory, and honor be unto Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. And I hope this was edifying to those that needed to be. And Shalom.